Hello everyone, morning. Sharing my screen. So we were discussing HCM data loader yesterday. Let's pick it up from where we have left it off yesterday. Sign out and sign in as Fusion.tech user. So we created a sample file yesterday. So what we did is we downloaded the template. I've explained the file format, what types of rows you can have in a HCM data loader file. And then we created a sample file that we can load in. And we're trying to load in 3 jobs, HR analyst, HR manager, and HR specialist into the application. And let's go and see in the application if these jobs already exist in the application or not before we load it in. Go to setup and maintenance. That's where you create the job from. Go to global search and search for manage job. Search for the jobs that start with FT14. So we don't have any jobs in the application which start with FT14. So what we can do is we can go ahead and load in this file. And in this file, I want to make in few changes. So I want to change this to active. I want to load 3 jobs with active status. And I want to have an effective start date of probably 1951, Jan 1st, 1951. So I'll use the same date on all the 3 records. And let's go ahead and load this file in. To load this file, first thing you need to do is you need to zip it. And you can give any name to this folder, ft14 job.zip, but don't change the .dat file name because there's no reason for it. And I want to import this file. So to import this file, you go into my client group, scroll down, you will see data exchange. And under HCM data loader, yesterday we went into this navigation option. We have seen what business objects are supported by HDL, and we have downloaded the template from there and we prepared a sample data file. And I want to import that data file now. So to import the data file, you can use this import and load data option. Click on it. And this is a screen from where you can import and load the data into HCM cloud application. So the first thing you need to do is click on import file. And you can select the folder where you have HCM file ready to be uploaded. Select the data file and click on submit. When you click on submit, what happens is this file, so as I mentioned earlier, none of the loader jobs can read the file from your local drive. So what happened in FPDA process, in FPDA also, there was a transfer file job that got triggered, which uploaded the file from our local drive into UCR. right? So when you choose a file from local drive here and hit the submit button, the same thing happens. So what HCM Cloud will do is it will upload this file to UCM and it will stamp the content ID back. So click on submit. So this file from your local drive is uploaded to UCM and a content ID is stamped back now. So if you want to verify whether the file is uploaded or not really into UCM, go in there, access the content server, and you can either search with the file name or with the content ID. Both will work. You should be able to see the file uploaded. Now that the file is in UCM or a content server, yes, this can be loaded into HCM Cloud. And what job gets triggered? Import and load HCM data file. And there are two bits in here, import and load. So all we're trying to do is I have data in this file or in this zip file and I want to create jobs with that information. And it's a two-step process again. And what are those two steps? Import and load. What will import do? Import will load the data from file into stage tables. Okay, so you don't have interface tables. Instead, what you have in HCM data loader process is a stage tables. And then the load process gets kicked off. What will the load do? The load process will pick up the information from stage tables and it will insert it into the application or a base tables. Okay. So in case from your EBS experience, if you are an EBS technical consultant, we usually use these terms other way around, right? We refer to the loader process as dumping the data into stage tables and import as reading the data from the stage tables or interface tables and inserting it into base tables. But here, the terms are used other way around in HCM data loader. Okay, so import process refers to loading the data from file into stage tables. Load process to refer to picking up the data from the stage tables and loading it into the application or base tables. And when you kick off this import and load, when you kick off this request, both the processes will run. So it imports the data into stage tables and optionally mark this keyword and it loads the data into application tables as well. The reason why it says optionally is because in the file action, you can choose whether you want to proceed with a load or not. So you have two options, import and load, which is the default one. And if you go with the default one, it will import the data and it will load the data as well. Okay. So to be frank, if you just kick off the request with the default parameters, HCM data loader process will work absolutely fine. But it's very important to understand the importance of each of these parameters as a technical consultant. Okay. So why it says optionally here? That's because if I select import only, then it will not kick off the load process. So that's why it says optionally. So select import and load. And you have got file encryption parameter here. So you will be receiving the HCM data file from the client. And if that data file contains sensitive information, say for example, person information with SSN numbers or maybe a payroll information or yeah, it could be any information within the file. But if it is sensitive, what client can do is they can encrypt the data file. We have seen how PGP encryption and decryption works already. We have seen it in the BIP report session, right? We're not going to get into that encryption again. But if the HCM data file contains sensitive information, client might encrypt the data file with a PGP public key. And he will let you know, he will pass on the PGP private key to you. And you will be using that PGP private key here to decrypt the file. Because if it's an encrypted file, so say for example, if this file is an encrypted file, if you don't pass in a decryption key, this process will fail because it won't be able to read the content of this file, of this zip file. So if it's an if it's encrypted file, client will tell you what a decryption key you need to use. So all you have to do is click on the drop down, select the decryption key, select the type of decryption, and select the decryption key that needs to be used to decrypt the contents of this zip file. Okay, so select it as none if the file is a normal one, not an encrypted one. And we'll come to these two parameters in a moment. You have this delete source file option. So this will be enabled by default, which means after this file is processed, it will be deleted from UCM. Okay, so if you leave this box as checked, which will by default be checked, the file will be deleted after it is loaded. If you want to retain the file for future reference, you can uncheck this. And what makes HCM data loader a bulk data load option is this ability to spawn multiple threads. So when you're kicking off the import and load HCM data file process, you can decide how many threads or how many workers you want to kick off for import and for load process. Okay, say for example, you're loading a file, let's say 10,000 jobs, or say with 50,000 employees, or say with 1 lakh departments or 1 lakh account segments, or whatever might be the case. If it is quite a huge file that you're trying to load, instead of one worker doing all the job, you can spawn multiple threads. And when you spawn multiple threads, again, you can define the number of threads you want to spawn for import and load separately. So that gives you more control. And the default value here is the maximum you can mention for import and load, and the default value will be 8. And what are the valid values here? Allowed here, you can enter any value between 1 and 1000. Meaning, say for example, you're loading this job file, and let's say there are 10,000 jobs in there. Okay, or let's say that any use case. Let's say there are 10,000 jobs, and if you go with say one option here, one has a maximum concurrent threads here, then only one worker will be triggered, and that worker alone will process all the 10,000 records. But if you increase the number of threads to 100 here, what will happen? 100 threads will be spawned, and each thread will process 100 records each. Okay, so that's how it works. And since any number is allowed between 1 and 1000, you should refrain from using a much higher number. So don't try to use something like 500 or 1000, because if you use a number which is as high as this, as high as 1000 or 500, what will happen is it will hijack all the resources available in the instance, and the other jobs that are running in the instance might go on hold, or you might see a severe performance lag in the application. Okay, so even though you can enter any whole number between 1 and 1000, if you ask what is the ideal number that you can use here, it again depends on the configuration of your ERP cloud instance. It again depends on the infrastructure supporting your instance, how many cores are running, what is the CPU bandwidth, and there are quite a few parameters that you need to gauge before you arrive at what is the optimal value for this one. There is no single value which will be valid in all the instances. So usually it is always safe to run with 8, and if it is a big file that you're trying to load, it is safer to run it with 50 as well. 50 to 100, absolutely no issues. Okay, so the threads will be spawned, and each thread will share the workload, and they will process the records in a double click time. Okay, so that is the importance of this parameter. So I'll put it back to a default value of 8. And coming back to these two errors. So these two errors, as you can make out from the name itself, maximum percentage of import errors. So you will mention a percentage here. And the moment that many errors are encountered, the processing of the file will stop. Okay, say for example, if you are loading, if you have 100 jobs in this file, if you leave this maximum or if you change this maximum percentage of import errors to say a 20. So what is 20% of 100? 20 errors, right? So let's say we just have 3 jobs in here, but let's assume you have 100 jobs. And let's say on all the jobs, by mistake, we have given a date format in a date values in a different format, which is not correct. So, probably this slash is missing. So you have some date format issues there. So in such case, you will, when you have a formatting issues, you will usually have them on all the records, right? More often than not. And in such cases, when you want to validate your file format, that's when you normally use these parameters. So if you change this, if you run this, if you go with the default option and run this with 100, what will happen? You load in a file with 100 jobs. All of them have the same date format issue. So HCM data loader will try to load in each job into the stage tables. And for each record, it will log the same error saying date format not correct, date format not correct. And it will repeat the log. It will repeat the same message for 100 records. So if you want to validate your file format, and only when you want to validate your file format, you will use these options. And that too, especially when you're trying out HCM data loader for the first or initial few times. Later on, you will always be running this with 100. Okay. So if you run this with a smaller percentage, like say 20, and if you have a date format issue like the one that I said, 100 records file, date format invalid on all the records. If you run it with a 20 as maximum percentage of import errors, then it will try to load in the first 20 records. All of them will error out. They will not be loaded. And that means the threshold is reached, which means the processing of the file will stop and the errors will be logged. You can look at the errors, and then you can first the data from the stage table in case something is loaded. And then you can correct the error that you have, probably the date format or probably the active or inactive state or whatever it could be. And then you can reload the same file in. So this is just given in case you want to validate the file format or do something, or with the help of these parameters, you can control when the processing of the file should stop. These are like basically the thresholds that you are mentioning there. Okay. So go with the default value and click on submit. A request ID will be generated. And if you refresh it, you will be able to see the data set coming up here. And you will have a detailed summary in this particular screen, a very detailed summary. So a first import will run. As I mentioned, the import will pick up the records from file and put them into stage tables. And you will have import related statistics here. What is the import success percentage? How many lines are there in the file? And how many of them were imported into stage tables? How many of them have failed? You have a similar statistics for load as well. So once the import is done, the load will get kicked off. What will load do? This will dump the data from file into stage tables. This will pick up the data from stage tables and load it into application tables. So you have similar statistics for load as well. What is the load success percentage? Total objects, pending objects, loaded objects, and how many of them have failed. Okay. And if you look at the summary, the import is running at the moment, and you see that import went through successfully, but the load has failed. And we know why the load has failed, right? Because I mentioned yesterday that the source system owner that you are passing in the HCM data loader file, this should be present in a seeded lookup. In HCM Cloud, there is a seeded lookup given by Oracle called source system owner. Before you use any source system owner in the HCM data loader files, you need to enter it in that particular seeded lookup. Okay, so I wanted to make the file end in error and then show you how to reprocess it as well. So import went through, but load has failed and the messages are populated. And if you select the data set, you will be able to see what business object files are included as part of the data set. And if you click on the messages to see, so if you look at the status, import 100% success, 3 lines are imported into stage tables. But what is the load success percentage? There are 3 lines, but all 3 of them have failed, which means a load success percentage is 0. And look at the errors, click on the messages. And you can see that a source system value is invalid, but it just prints out some template variable here, right? You don't know what value it is talking about. So if you want to get the details about the actual value, you click on the message. And when you click on the message, it will show the records which have that problem. So there are 3 objects, there are 3 jobs that we are trying to load, and all 3 jobs have the same problem. All 3 jobs, or it will show you the occurrences of this error in the data file. There are 3 occurrences of this error. This problem indeed exists for all the 3 records. And now you can see the source system owner value as well. Okay. So in this case, as I mentioned yesterday, you will not be able to query the stage tables from a data model. In case of FPDI, you were able to query a GL interface table, right, to see whether the records are loaded or not, whether they are processed or not, right? So you don't have that flexibility in HCM data loader. You cannot query the stage tables. Then how do you get the records that are loaded, or how do you get the error records and all such information? So that's why in the user interface here, so this is a pretty good screen that they have built, with the previous one and this one, and you also have some capabilities available to extract the information. Say, for example, if you want to export this to an Excel, you can do that, and you can see what records have this error. Okay, and if you want to get into the object details, you can click on it and get into the object details. Let's say, for example, you loaded in a file with 1,000 records. But say 630 of them have been loaded. Okay, say you loaded in 1,000 records file, all 1,000 got loaded or imported rather, but only say 678 or 699 records loaded, in the sense loaded into the base tables. So there are that 301 records which are not loaded, right? So you will not be able to query these stage tables. In such case, how do you get this list of 301 records or maybe 300 records? How do you get that list? So to get that list, what you can do is, you see this failed lines file option here. So you don't see anything in there at the moment. You have an option called extract failed lines option here. So you click on this button, and what this will do is, as you can see from the name itself, as you can make out from the name itself, it will generate HCM data loader file for the data that failed to load. Okay, so it will, what this job will do is, it will go and it will try to fetch all the records that have errored out. It will generate a HCM data loader file again, and it will upload that file to here. Okay, so let's submit the request. A process ID generated. Refresh it. You see that the failed lines file generation is in progress at the moment. Do a refresh. And you can see that you have option to download the file now, and you see that this option is grayed out because file is already generated. So you download this file, and when you download this file, you can open it up and you can paste it to the folder. And if you open it up, you will be able to see the job.dat file, and open it up again. What does the comment say? It says this file contains the error records of ft14 job.zip file. So whatever records have been loaded using this particular file, if and if the failed lines, which could not be loaded from this zip file, are included as part of this. So you can identify what the issue is. So this will extract a subset of the records which are failed. So if 301 have failed, this is how you extract those 301 records and you try to reprocess them by resolving the errors. So how do you resolve the errors? I'll talk about it in a moment. Okay. So, and what do we need to do now? So why did these records ended in error in first place? That's because there is a lookup called source system owner where we need to make an entry for FT14 PeopleSoft. Okay, so you copy this value, go into the application and say, let's go into a manage common lookups option. And go to the meaning and search for source system owner. And you should be able to see the entries, existing entries here. And click on the plus icon and you enter the source system owner from where you're getting the file. So if you're getting it from PeopleSoft, you can say FT14 PeopleSoft. Just FT14 is just an identifier. And you can put a display sequence and put in a start date. And that's okay. You can use the same one as a meaning and description as well. And save and close. So if you ask me who is going to tell me that I need to make an entry in the source system owner lookup, when you get this error, when you run into this error for the first time, if you search in Metalink or Google, you will, Metalink should be the appropriate place. If you search in Metalink, you will be able to, or support.oracle.com, you will be able to easily identify at least few articles which will tell you that yes, there is a lookup wherein you need to make an entry. Okay, this is a basic prerequisite. Okay. And now that we have entered the source system owner, I don't need to change anything in the interface table, right, or in the stage table. So I want to reprocess the file or reprocess the stage table records or records which are there in the stage table. So I can do it by clicking on the submit icon here. So if I click on the submit icon, this time, what do you notice? You notice that only the load job is getting triggered, not the import job, because import went through successfully. The data is already in the stage tables. And this load job will pick up the data from the stage tables and it will load it into the application. And if you look at the parameters you will see only the parameters related to the load process, not the import process. Okay, so go with the default options. I've explained the significance of these parameters earlier. And click on submit. Again, you get a process ID back. Refresh it. So you could see that the load went through successfully now. Load success percentage is also 100. Go back into the application and search for manage jobs. I think it's job. And you can search for FT14. And you could see that 3 jobs are loaded now. And if you click on any one of them, just validate whether whatever you have passed in the data file has been loaded or not. So FT14 HR analyst. So this is a job name. Yes, the job is created and this is a job code without spaces. Yes, it's created as an active job. That's fine. And it was created with the start date of 1st Jan 1951. That's also fine. The reference data set is common, which is what we have passed in here. And the job family name is accounting. Yes, the job family is loaded as an accounting option. And you have the source system owner and the ID. So these 2 options will not be visible within the UI. it will be stored in the backend tables, or it will rather be available for internal use by HCM data loader. I'll talk about these two keys and other keys involved in HCM data loader process probably in the next half an hour. But till the time, please hold on to the questions regarding the source system owner or the keys. So whatever we have passed in, yes, we try to load 3 jobs. All 3 of them have been loaded now. Okay, any questions in the usual flow ways as far as the normal processing of HCM data loader process file is concerned?
Sir, where are the threads? Because you've given 8 threads, right?
You will not be able to see them.
Oh,
all of it happens in the background. Yeah, you don't get to see them.
Okay. So that 20% error threads, right? If we have 1000 rows, so it will wait till 200 rows gets filled?
Correct. Yes. And the moment 200 rows fail, it will stop further processing of the file, and it will log the messages to the log the error messages. And what you will do, you will review the error messages and you will correct the data file format, and you will reload the file with 100%. So to be frank, you will. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking loudly, right? If there are 1000, there will not be first 100 rows or 200 rows failed, right? There will be like one row might get processed and successfully. It starts from first row to end with last row, right? It will not consider first failed rows or invalid rows and then throws out the error. Not that way.
No, the rows can fail any, or to put it this way, any row can fail. It need not be the first 20 rows or first 100 rows. Right. But the moment that threshold is reached, the file processing will stop.
Okay, got it.
As simple as that. Yeah. But usually we never ever run it with those parameters. Yeah, that sounds an interesting parameter, but we usually don't tweak them. We usually run them with 100 because it makes our life difficult to identify what has been loaded, what has not been loaded, and you run into unnecessary complications. It will do more harm than good by changing those parameters. Because anyways, the file formats, you will adhere to the file formats, what date format should be and all that stuff, right? So probably I might be missing something there, but I don't see any real value addition with those parameters unless you are doing HCM data loader process for the first time. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Prasad, this is Krishna. Question on the zip file. You mentioned that we have a DAT file, right? So I was just curious on why the input file is zip and not the DAT, where the real data is DAT.
Okay, that's a good question. In fact, and the reason is, in a single HCM data loader file, with a single HCM data loader file, you can load data into multiple business objects.
Okay.
So if you notice the screen here, when you select the data set, you see the business object here, right?
Yes.
So since you have only job.dat file and the zip file, you can see that. But if you want to club multiple, or if you want to load data into multiple business objects with the same data file, you can do it. And in such case, you cannot upload multiple .dat files, right? Because when you click on import file, you can select only one file.
Right.
So that's why they have given that compressed file option.
Okay, so basically the programs, the import and load, it's only one interface basically where we can utilize to load any kinds of data sets. The only, I think, reference factor is that it'll look at the job.dat or let's say location.dat, job code.dat, and based on that, those particular programs execute and they know in which staging table it should load and which base table it should update, right?
Exactly. That's why you should not change this job.dat file. So if you try to load the file, probably you can write it after the session in the zip file. So you change the name of this job or this .dat file from job to say job1 or job2, it will fail because it will not be. So based on what you said is right, based on the file name, it identifies what data is contained in the .dat file and it will populate the appropriate stage tables. Because nowhere are we mentioning what is it that we are trying to load here.
Right.
At least in the FPGA process, in the loader, we are mentioning the input process, but we are not doing anything here.
That is right. Okay, cool. Thanks, Prasad.
Thank you. I think Viru was asking some question earlier. I think he was cut off in the middle.
Nothing, Prasad, because I had that question on the threshold, error threshold, like it was saying that first 20 rows get failed, it stopped processing. I was like, I was trying to understand this. This should go row by row, starting from first row to end last row, right?
Yeah, it acts like a threshold. The errors need not be in the first 20. It can be anywhere. That 20 can be anywhere. It could be first row and the last 20 rows as well. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. The moment it reaches to max out, it will stop processing. And one more question, Prasad, on the threads, right? Let us say if we give, let us say 70 threads, depends on the data volume, right? So in any threshold, any thread gets failed. Let us say there is some error in, 10,050 row. That is running with the thread of like 30 or 35. If that fails, so the entire job show as a fail. The status of
it will, because we don't get to see the threads, and I haven't seen a case wherein one thread fails or a two thread fails. We don't get to see that information also in case one of the thread fails or not. But I believe internally it should work that way, the way that you just said. If a thread fails, whatever load that it is processing should be considered as a failed record. Yeah.
Anyway, it gives everything on the screen that we see. Okay. Correct.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, Prasad, just related to that threshold only. So let us say I'm giving 20% as a threshold. Okay. Suppose it is processing first line is successful, then it will be loaded only, right?
Correct. That's why I said it will do more harm than good.
Okay.
So then what will happen is the processing will stop after it reaches the threshold. Okay. Then you have to get the failed lines again. And in that failed lines, you will not have the first line because it has already been loaded. So it complicates things more for you.
Okay.
So what you said is right. If few records have already been loaded and then you entered a few errors and then the threshold has been hit, then you run into those issues. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Prasad.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to other options now. Say, for example, so one key thing that we have discussed yesterday is on the data rows, I mentioned that you can only use a keyword called merge, right? So I said that you cannot use an insert or you cannot use update, but you can only use a word called merge on the data row, right? So in fact, only 3 keywords are allowed in HCM data loader file. But how will this merge works? So the way merge works is it identifies whether this job exists or not in the cloud application in HCM Cloud in first place. And if it exists, it will update the job. And when we loaded this file for the first time, it would have checked in the application and this job didn't exist, so it created it. But now, if you try to reload the same file by changing in something, like say, for example, change the end date or change the effective start date or probably make the job as inactive, what will happen? You're reloading the same file. The job already exists in the application. And since we are using a merge operation, merge keyword here, which is the only one that is allowed, it will update the existing job with all the other parameters that you're passing in here. So whatever you pass in here, so those details will be updated. So if you pass in the active status as inactive, the job will be marked as inactive. So the next key question is, how does HCM data loader identify whether the job exists or not? With what keys does it identify? Okay, so we'll park the keys question for the next 15 minutes because it's a complicated subject. We will talk about it at the end of the reprocessing. First, let's understand how to reprocess the records, and then we will understand how internally HCM data loader would have identified whether the job exists or not. Okay, so what we do now is we will reload the same file with just one small change. I will make this as inactive job. Okay, so when you make it as inactive and reload the same file, what should happen? Since these 3 jobs already exist in the application, they should be updated. New job should not be created. Instead, the existing job should be updated to inactive jobs. The status of this should change to inactive. Let's try to load in this file. Let me call it as update jobs. Update job rather. Okay, so the process is same. Import file, choose file, I'll go with the default options. And the expectation is that these 3 jobs will be marked as inactive. So import went through successfully. And load also went through successfully now. Okay, so if you go back and try to search for the jobs again, you won't find any of them because the status, there will be a default filter called filter, which will search for only the active jobs, which will display only the active jobs. So make it as null and do a search. And if you search for the jobs, you see that 3 jobs have been marked as inactive now. And the same merge keyword. So the way it works is it will see if the job exists. If it doesn't exist, it creates it. If it exists, it updates it. That's how the merge works. And there's one more thing that you need to be aware of. Let's say, for example, let's load in the same file. And say for example, let's say FT14HR, or say HR1, replace all. And we'll also change the job name as well. And I'll change this to active. Okay. Let's try to load in this file now. So if you load in this file, say for example, there was a typo in the active status. Say for example, instead of active status, you have passed it as, say I was missing in there. Okay. and let's say the date format is also not correct. Okay, so the reason why I'm making a couple of changes here is when you load in a HCM data loader file. Remember, we have downloaded the spreadsheet and we corrected the errors from the interface table, right? You have a similar option available in HCM data loader as well, but that is not a very feasible option. I'll show you how that option works. What are we trying to do now? We're trying to load 3 jobs again, new jobs with HR1 and list, manager and specialist. And there is a problem with the date format, and there is a problem with an active status as well. This is not a valid status. This is not a valid date. And we have that error on all the records, right? Let's load in this file. And let's call it as error file. Let's import it. Go with the default options. You see that this time the load itself, the import itself has failed, right? And you see the error messages populated. Okay, so you see that load will not even be kicked off. And you see the messages, 3 lines, all 3 failed, import success percentage 0. And you click on this error messages to see a list of errors. So what does it say? It says the attribute contains an invalid date, and it says the date must be in a specific format. So you click on the message and it tells you in what format you need to pass in the date. So in case someone wants to know, how do you know that this is a date format, or a date format needs to be passed, or date needs to be passed in this specific format? So this is how you do it. When you run into the issue for the first time, you know what date format you need to pass in, and you will stick to it later on. So you see that the date format is invalid here. But apart from the date format, there is also a problem with the active status. But the date format gets validated at the loader stage itself. And what is important here is, for some of the attributes, you will not be able to edit them in the staging table directly. Say, for example, if you go back, I don't think we will be able to edit this error. Okay, so you see the error message, but you don't see an option to edit the record in the stage tables here. You don't see any edit option available here. Okay, so we'll leave this as is. And what we'll do is, let's try to load in another file. So what I'm trying to highlight is, there are few fields on the job which are like the key fields, right? Like the mandatory fields with which you create a job, like the effective start date, a job set, name, and a code. So these fields, once the records are loaded into stage tables, or if there is any problem, you will not be able to correct the data in the stage tables. But say, for example, if you have problem with other fields, like let's say the active status, which is not a mandatory column. It is mandatory column, but it's something that will be allowed for update. So what happens is, when records get stuck in the stage tables, you will notice that some of the fields can be updated. Okay, so let's change this. Let's quickly load in this file, and let's change this to HR2, replace all, and change this to HR2, and load in this file. So this time we only have problem with the active status. The date format is correct. Error 1 job. Import the file. Go with the default options. Again, the same reprocessing options that you have seen in FPDA are also applicable for HCM as well, HCM data loader. What was the first reprocessing option we discussed in FPDA? Do the missing configuration and reprocess the records, right? So we have seen it with the first file itself. That when something is when some configuration is missing, like the source system not entered in a lookup, it will error out. You can do the missing configuration and rerun the file. And the second one is the second file. We try to analyze how the merge works, right? And the second reprocessing option is to edit the data in the interface table, right? So we did it by downloading a spreadsheet in the case of FPDA. But here in the case of HCM data loader also, you have an option to edit the data directly in the stage tables, but it's not a feasible option to be frank. But I'll show you how you can do that. But it won't sound like a feasible option because you need to get into each and every record from the user interface and then correct it. So you might feel that you will be better off by extracting the failed lines file. You will you will probably reload the same file again, reload the error file again rather than correcting the error records from the user interface. Okay, so the option number 2 we're going to explore now. So you see that import went through successfully, but load failed. So if you look at why, it says some attribute is invalid. And if you want to see what that attribute is and what is that value that we have passed, click on it. It will show you that 3 records have this error, and this value that you have passed for active status is invalid. And what does it say? It says that it doesn't exist in the list of values. Okay, so yeah, probably it's there is a lookup called active status, and in that probably only active and inactive are marked as a valid values. But since you passed in ACTVE, I missing, maybe a typo, it was not a valid value. So all 3 records errored out. So in this case, if you ask me, can't we correct this in the stage table itself? I don't want to reload the file. Yes, you can do that. So you click on object details record, expand the job record again, or click on it rather. You can see the details in there, and you notice that for some of the fields, you won't be able to change the value or update the value. But for some fields, yes, you can change the value. For example, you can't change the job ID or a job code, and you can't change the reference data set code and the source system roller. But the other fields that you have, they can be updated directly within the staging table itself. Say, for example, what is the problem with this record? It needs to be corrected, right? I realize that it's a typo, so I can edit the record directly from here. So I can say active, change it to active, and I can save it. This is like editing the record within the stage table directly. And if you do it on the other 2 records as well, but what is the problem here? In FPDA, you were able to download the Excel sheet, and in Excel, you can do a copy paste once, right? So to rectify all the errors, and you can load it in. But here, it won't be that simpler. It's like you have to get into each and every record and correct it. So you will notice that instead of doing it this way, you could probably extract the failed lines, correct this in the failed lines file, and reload that file. That is probably a better option. But in case there is one or two random records that are varied out, instead of loading the file again, you can probably correct it this way as well. So this is one option available to correct the stage table data. Okay, so this is error reprocessing option 2, wherein you can edit the stage table data directly within the directly from the user interface. Edit it, and you can change the status active, save it. And since the stage table records are updated now with an active status, you can reload the file. All you have to do is just submit it. And the 3 jobs should get created now. This is how you update the data in a stage table. But I don't think it's a feasible option. The moment number of records needs to be corrected increases, this option will no longer be feasible. Rather, what you do, you extract the failed lines, you correct the data in the failed lines file, and you reload it after that. Okay. And you could see that the jobs are loaded now. So if you go to the application and search with, say, FD14HR2, you should be able to see 3 jobs created again. Okay. And what is the third option available? The third option is obviously purge the data from the stage tables so that you can load in a new file. So that option is available in the delete stage table data here. So if you want to delete delete the data from a staging tables for a particular file, you can create an action. So you can schedule deletion. And this job will run delete HCM data loader stage table data, and you need to, before you do this, you have to select the job before you click on schedule deletion. You have to search for the file or apply filters and search for the file here. So it says there is nothing available in the past 30 days, but that is not true. We've got few error files available. So you go to the search show filters option. You can search with the error file name here. I believe we have this file stuck in the stage tables. We can come back to this screen again. And search for the data set. It's not showing up a file here. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's a zip file. File type is compressed.dat file. Days since last updated. This is also fine. Let me just take out one filter. Compressed.dat file. Import status error. For import status, I think it has not started, right? Sorry, the import itself is error, yeah. And you search with the dataset name. You're not sure why it's not showing up, but yeah, you will see the file, dataset file here. And once you see the file here, you select the file. And once you select the file, you click on the drop down and you click on schedule deletion. And when you schedule deletion, this job will run, which will delete the data from stage table for that particular content ID, whatever you have selected. Okay, and once the data is deleted from the stage tables, you can go ahead and load in a fresh file after that. Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions in the process of what we discussed so far? Yes, Krishna.
Prasad, so a basic question regarding this import and load. So at what point of time the validation occurs? I'm like, is it only during the import, or will there be any validation that occurs during the load? And when I say validation, I'm not talking about the logic, but I'm talking about the checking, of the valid values or formats or any other things. Can you please throw some light?
Yeah. From what we have seen in today's session itself, you can say that it happens at both the levels of validations, right? When we loaded in a file with invalid date, what happened? Import failed, right? So that means import also does some validation. So the typical validations that will be performed at the import level, or when import process runs, is it looks whether the format is correct or not. The format level validations happen at the import level. So when you run the loader job, it only checks whether the data is in proper format or not, right? So that way. And when the load runs, this is like running an import job in the FPGA process. This is where the data is checked, or what is the job that you're trying to create, or what is the source system owner, or what are the dependencies. So all the validations typically happen at the load level. Before it is inserted into base table, it will be verified whether the record is good to be loaded into a base table or not. Data validations happen here, format validations happen here. Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And there are two important points that I want to talk about. So sometimes user might come back and say that, or you yourself might not see HCM data loader or HCM spreadsheet data loader, or if you don't see these loader options when you come into data exchange, that means there is a role missing for your user profile. So for you to be able to see this HCM data loader and spreadsheet data loader, there is a role called Human Capital Management Integration Specialist. Okay, this is a role required for you to be able to see HCM data loader and HCM spreadsheet data loader options. If you don't see these options, you have to get this role assigned to your user profile. Okay, and the next point is I want to talk about HCM data loader keys. So there is one blog which explains HCM data loader keys in an excellent way. So I will use this blog to explain it in the session as well. So when you load anything into HCM cloud using HCM data loader, there will be 4 keys that will come into picture. Okay, HCM data loader supports 4 different types of keys. Or rather, or to put it this way, whenever you load a record into HCM cloud with HDL process, there will be 4 keys involved. So what are the 4 keys? So if you scroll down, let's understand it with the help of an example that makes it easy to understand. So what did we do here? We have created job, right? We have loaded in few jobs, and in this example, a location is considered, a location business object is considered, but it works pretty much the same way. Say, for example, you loaded a location or a job. So for every record you load, okay, for every record you load, there will be a GUID generated within the application. This is called as a global unique identifier. And as you can make out from the name itself, this ID will be unique in the Fusion instance, and this will be unique across all the business objects. That means if you search with this ID, you will find only one record, whether it could be location or it could be a department or it could be something else, but it is a global unique identifier. Okay. So this ID, you don't need to do anything. This gets generated in the background. And if you want to figure out what a GUID is generated for the record that you have loaded, you can query this table, HRC integration key map table, and you can mention what is the source system owner that you have used. So if you run this query with replacing the source system owner as FT14 PeopleSoft, you will see 3 GUIDs generated. Okay, so if you go ahead, copy this. Let's go to the reports work area. Let's create a data model. Select HCM here and paste in the query that you have copied. And the source system owner that we used for our file is FT14 PeopleSoft, right? So you copy it and paste it in there. And click OK. Go to the data tab and run the query. And what do you see in there? So we loaded multiple jobs, right? So we loaded multiple jobs or multiple files. So you see the jobs that are loaded, 6 jobs are loaded successfully. And for each of those jobs, there is a GUID generated. So this ID will be again a unique across. So I think they've done some transformation in there. Okay, so these IDs, so yeah, they're looking like a similar one, but I'm not particularly sure. So I think they try to do some conversion here. So do you see any difference between these 3 GUIDs? I don't see any. Okay, maybe. So what you need to be aware of is this GUID, it should be a unique identifier. Probably we are doing some raw to hex something in there, but instead let's try to print a GUID itself without doing that conversion. Click OK. Okay. It's weird here, but ideally, for every record that you load in, you will have a unique identifier generated, a global unique identifier, and this will be unique across the business objects. Meaning, with the help of this ID, you should be able to identify a record uniquely, not within a business object, but across business objects. But apart from this GUID, there is something called as, so when you load in a record, say for example, when you create a location, what gets created? What will be the primary key in location? It's location ID, right? But what is the primary key in the job? So in the case of jobs, it's a job ID, right? So there will be a surrogate ID that will be generated, which will be nothing but a primary key within that table. So if you load a job, it's job ID. If you load in a location, it's a location ID. So in here, you see a surrogate ID in there, right? So if you copy this and query per jobs table, you will be able to, so these are nothing but the job IDs, the surrogate ID. So the surrogate ID, it's again a primary key within the object. and you will be able to identify a unique job with the help of that surrogate ID. But this surrogate ID is unique only within the business object. You can have a different job, a different position, or a different department with the same ID. GUID, it will be unique across the Fusion instance, across the business objects. But surrogate ID is unique within the specific business object. Okay, so that's the difference between GUID and surrogate ID. And surrogate ID, you again need not do anything. It will be created automatically. Okay, so when we loaded in the jobs, yes,
sir, this GUID is unique only. Okay, there is a difference is there. Okay. Yeah, 25 CE, 25 CF, and 25 D0.
Okay, yeah. Probably I should get my eyesight checked. Thanks for helping me, Suresh. So these are unique IDs, and if you search with the help of this GUID, it will be unique across the business objects. Meaning, if you search with this GUID, you won't find another job or another position or another department or another worker with this GUID. It will be unique across the business objects, but this ID is unique within the business object. That's the difference between GUID and the surrogate ID. And we are left with two more options. Source keys. So when you load in the file, you are passing the source system keys, right? Source system owner and ID. So a combination of the source system owner and ID will form the source key. So it's given a source system ID itself is given as a source key here. But yeah, the source system ID that you are passing in here, this is a source key that you are passing in. Okay, so in the data file, you can only pass in source key and the user key. You might or might not pass in the source key, it's optional, but user key is something that you definitely have to pass in. These Fusion GUID and surrogate IDs, they get automatically generated. Okay, so the source key will be the source system ID that you are populating, and the user key will be a combination of a job code and a set code. Remember, you have a concept of reference data sets in cloud application, right? And the reference data sets, the way it works, it lets you have a same job code in a different reference data set. Say, for example, you have this job code, right? You can have the same job code created in a different reference data set. So to identify a unique job or a location, or to identify the job or a location, you cannot do it directly with a job code or location code, because that could exist in a different reference data set as well. Or the same job or a position could exist in multiple reference data sets. So how do you identify a unique job? It should be a combination of job code and set code. If it's a location, location code and set code. Okay, so if it's position, it's position code and set code. So that combination of set code and the business object code, location code, job code, etc., this forms a user key. So these are the four keys involved in HCM data loader process. And the reason why I have explained all this story is, if you scroll down, so when you create a business object, say for example, when you create a job, you could create it by passing in the user key, meaning the job code, set code, and the source keys as well. Which is what this is what we exactly did in the session today, right? So we created a job with user keys, job code and set code, and the source keys. But the source keys are not mandatory. You could also create a job with only the user keys, as you can see here. Okay, and depending on how you create the job, that will have an impact when you try to update that particular job. So if you try to create a job, or if you have created a job with only the user key, then you will have to update it only by passing the user keys, right? So when you're trying to update a job, if you pass in a source system, so you can update any business object in 4 different ways. Okay, so you can pass in source system owner and ID, in which case HCM data loader will identify if a job exists with this combination or not. And if it exists, it updates it. or you can update an object or identify an object with the help of user key, meaning the job code and the set code. And in this case, HCM data loader will try to identify that if the job exists or not with this combination of user keys. Or you can, to uniquely or to help HCM data loader uniquely identify a job, you could also pass in the GUID as well if you want. Or you can pass in the job ID as well, which is a surrogate ID. So to update the record, you can pass in, you can use any keys, or you can use a combination of them as well. Say, for example, if you pass in the source keys and a user key, source key will be given preference and it will try to identify if a job exists with that source key or not. Okay, so this is how it works. Yeah, any questions, guys? Any questions? And this is a very useful blog. Just keep it for your reference. I'll ping it in the chat for everyone. You can go through it as well. And in the documents that we have shared earlier, I believe I think we need to share the second set to your batch, right? You guys would not have received the second batch, second set of materials yet, or have you already received it?
I think we did not.
We did get it.
Okay, you got it already. Okay, so in this set, you have the HCM data loader documents. You did not get it. So whoever has not received it, so no one has received it, or yes or no?
No.
Okay.
I did get it. I requested Ravi to send it, or the admin to send it.
And okay, they would have sent it only to you. Maybe what I'll do is I'll send this out to the admin today and ask them to share it with the entire batch. So that way you and in this set you will have all the other materials that we have been covering for the past 2 or 3 days. It starts with FPDA. I think only till a point 10 you have in the first set, and rest everything is included as part of the second set. So in the second set you have two options. You have two documents in there related to HCM data loader. If you go to this hands-on document, you will have the entire process with the screenshots. If you want to go through the theory part as to what keys are involved, how it works and all the stuff, you can go through the theory part. Okay. Any questions, guys? Any questions in HCM data loader?
Prasad, one quick question on the multiple rows, right? If one job has a multiple child rows in the job, right, we have the other values, right? So how we can handle those scenarios? Let us say one job has a multiple, child rows.
Okay, in such. So are you talking about the additional sections, additional metadata rows?
Yeah.
If you have additional metadata rows, what you need to do is you will have to prepare a file like this. You can, I will share the sample worker load file. So if you have multiple metadata, if you want to load data into multiple sections, you will prepare a data file like this. Like what we did is we had only one row for job, but say for example, you want to load the job grade information or job legislative information, you can have another row like this, another metadata row, and you will pass in the information again related to that. Let me share this file as well in the chat.
Yeah. The example file will help us.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, Prasad.
Yes.
Yeah, in BIP reports that in data model, so we are writing the queries. No? So only we can write the only selector. Other than that, we can write other things like insert, update, and delete.
You cannot write insert, update, or delete. You can only write the select statement there.
Okay. See, if you have like joint query, so that is there any way to like debug or see the process how it is going? Any debugging is available?
No debugging is available. So you can run the query standalone to see if they're generating the output or not. if they're generating the output, well and good. If for some reason if BIP report errors out, then you have to look at the log file and see what might have gone wrong in there. So you don't have any enabled trace option in ERP cloud.
Means
Okay.
we don't have any provision. This debugging itself not there in the ERP cloud.
No, what do you mean by debugging? What exactly are you looking for? So in BIP report, you're creating a data model. You are plugging in the BIP queries. Okay, so what exactly are you looking for?
No, we want to see that query was step by step. Like if you want to write the joins multiple tables, so we want to see how from the first table it is coming the data and passing into the when we are writing the joins and everything. So
No, that option is not available. It's not available in EBS as well. So probably Oracle expects that we know how the data flows or how to join the tables. You will not have that mechanism anywhere in Oracle. Not only ERP, any application you take, that will not be available. You will not be able to see how the data from business unit table is fetched and then how it is linked with invoice table. You don't get to see that data flow. Okay, but if you want to run it yourself, you can probably keep adding the tables and see how the queries are building up, the way we have done in the session.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everyone, guys. We'll meet again tomorrow then. Thank you. And sorry, Manoj, I think you are the one who asked.
Yeah, I wanted to have one-on-one discussion with you.
Yeah, you can hang on. Others will. Yeah.
Okay.
Once others drop off, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yes, Manoj. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Prasad. Actually, first, let me tell you, I have around 10 years experience, EBS technical, finance, SEM modules, and little bit HCM as well. So I was looking for the training, but I was, sorry?
1 second, Manoj. I will stop the recording so that
right.
others in the batch.
Right.